VOWR800.
Hello, and welcome to Going Strong. My name is Deborah Collins, your host for the show that celebrates the Newfoundland and Labrador culture, a culture second to none. Each week, I chat with guests doing their part to keep that culture going strong. This week, we welcome Kelsey Arsenault and Jordan Young, a couple of young musicians who are partners not only in music, but in life. Kelsey was recently nominated by Music NL for its Rising Star Award and has just released her first CD entitled Gallery Walls, with several Newfoundland musicians, including Jordan. Jordan, a.k.a. Grey J, is firmly entrenched in the local music scene as a producer, songwriter, and session musician. His work on the mandolin and double bass have enhanced many a concert, many an album, including several of his own in the last decade, with a new one on the horizon. They've both been influenced by many older musicians around the province, but these days are carving their own unique path through the Newfoundland music scene. Welcome, Kelsey and Jordan.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Debbie.
I'm so glad you could make it here. Well, 2023 has been quite a year for you, Kelsey. A new album, a Music NL nomination, and very recently, you both were the opening act for the Masterless Men, one of your favorite bands. That is what I'd call taking the year by storm. How does it feel?
Yeah, honestly, it's surreal. I'm still kind of floating, I think. It's only been about a week since I released the album officially. So it's been really exciting and beautiful, yeah.
You're from Fairyland, so you would have grown up listening to the Masterless Men, also from there, I believe.
Yeah, they're from the south side, I'm from the north, or the other way around. They're from the north, I'm from the south.
But within walking distance, probably, yeah. Certainly listening distance.
Yeah.
Across the garden down in Fairyland. What was it like to share the stage with a band that was one of your biggest inspirations, I would think?
It was amazing, honestly. I mean, I grew up listening to the Masterless Men, they were always in the car, I don't know if I ever really, held their CD, but I listened. It was just in my life or in the landscape. It was on the radio, and it was in my car, and yeah.
All around you.
All around me, for sure.
And there they were, on stage.
Exactly, and I mean, it was a real honor for us, me and Jordan and our friend Katie, to get to the arts and culture stage. I mean, it was a big deal.
Yeah. First time?
Second for me, but it was many years ago. But to be invited by honestly people that we've looked up to since we were kids. I mean, I told the story a couple of times a week. Of Mom and Dad having the original Colcannon, the first Masterless Men tape, and I was playing that in the old Jeep until it wore out. So to have those people just sort of take notice of the music we're doing now and invite us along to share the stage as peers was pretty incredible experience.
Yeah. And Jordan, you grew up in Bonavista Bay.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Is that where you first developed your love for music? Who were your strongest influences over the years?
I'm a little bit sort of half towny, half bay because, Mom has her roots in downtown and grew up as a person in St. John's as a contemporary to a lot of the people that I really looked up to, Dave Panting and Jim Payne. It's kind of funny, when I moved in St. John's to start university, I ended up in classes with a lot of people like Maggie Meyer, say Dave Panting's daughter, and he was a big inspiration for me on the mandolin, part of the reason I picked it up. And I was just across the hallway in residence from Kai Payne, Jim's daughter, and he's a big accordion and songwriting hero of mine. So it was kind of interesting, to have that sort of the towny cultural renaissance people be some of Mom's contemporaries and me come to sort of get in with them when I started my St. John's life. But I guess growing up in Bonavista Bay, the kitchen party was the real thing. Had some wonderful friends that were part of our family circle, like Floyd, Prince, for example. The brother of John Prince, if you know John Prince and the Piece of the Rock, Newfoundland Blessing. I mean, just a lot of music every Sunday around the table.
Yeah. You had a really interesting experience a few months ago with one of your big inspirations. You went swimming with Sandy Morris, and then you did a little tune. Tell me about it.
Oh my God! To talk about the gig of a lifetime. Well, Sandy Morris has always been good to me since I was in my early 20s as a musician. He took me out for lunch one time. I remember I was trying to produce a show at the Reed Theatre, and it was the first time I'd kind of taken on a bigger sort of concert, and he offered to take me out for lunch and give me some pointers on putting together a bigger band and a show like that and what was involved. And he's been a friend and a mentor ever since. And turns out we're both big lovers of outdoor swimming. And so for his 75th birthday, he was fondly featured. I'm sure he's been on many times before, but they did a special segment on outdoor swimming because he swims all around the province as he tours, and that's something I'm big into as well. So on land and sea, we had to have a little swim up at the Punch Bowl Pond there up on Blackhead Road, and once we got out of the water, we had a little jam, and we played the theme from Land and Sea live with the Sandy guitar and me and mandolin. So
wow,
gig of a lifetime.
Yeah, gig of a lifetime. Yeah,
Sandy himself.
Iconic tune with an icon.
I was a little nervous, to say the least.
Well, I heard it. It sounded great. One more question, and then I'll go back to Kelsey. But so you play a number of instruments, as you say, including mandolin, but you also play the big double bass. Now, I love that. Now, it is like a huge fiddle, but so it's kind of Newfoundland, but you don't hear it or see it a lot.
My niece calls it the big violin.
The big violin, it really is, except you can't hold it in your arms. But what drew you to that, Jordan?
Well, I always joke. I always say, big instrument to compensate for the small talent.
True.
I have a couple of good friends. They're in the music scene, Matt Hender and Dave Rowe, and they both do some playing in kind of the bluegrass scene where the double bass is much more part of the sound of that music. And I was just fascinated by it. And I played electric bass for years in a bunch of bands, and just happened on a deal for one that had been cracked in half by a student as a rental. And I had a friend who was an instructor up there for bass, and I said, will this be okay? So he said, that's a great deal. I said, Rodney DeVries, who's really well-known local luthier violin builder, and he fixed it up. And he said, that's a great instrument. You'll have fun with that. So I picked it up about 3 years ago, and everyone's just fascinated. I get more people asking me to play the upright with them now than electric, even though that's what I've been doing for years and years. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that acoustic sound is so gorgeous, yeah. Well, Kelsey, growing up in Fairyland in the heart of the Irish Southern Shore, you would have been steeped in music and musical culture. Was it inevitable you'd end up in music yourself, you think?
Probably was inevitable. I mean, Fairyland, as you know, I'm sure, is just so saturated with talent, with creativity. I mean, it's just beautiful to look at, too. So how could you not feel inspired in some way, I think, having grown up there? And I think it really took kind of moving away to see it from that lens. Because, I mean, when you're there and you're growing up, you kind of can't wait to get out in some respects. And then once you get back and you have a look at it, you realize how beautiful and how special it is as a place. So yeah, it was all around me. I mean, my parents' friends, Maxine and Charlie Dunn, the Barber family, just my own family, and my mom and grandfather were musicians, and yeah, lots of inspiration.
Yeah. And you describe your musical style as riding the waves of contemporary pop and the tides of Newfoundland folk. So
I had to put a little bit of ocean in there.
You did. Well, and waves and tides, it's no trouble to tell you live alongside the Atlantic Ocean. Lots of rich imagery, like you say, to choose from, and certainly growing up in a beautiful place. And this might be a good point to hear a song that kind of speaks of that. In keeping with the East Coast inspiration, this song was inspired by your time away from Newfoundland when you were in university on the mainland, but you were still on Eastern time. So set it up for us.
Yeah, so that song really came from a bit of being homesick, a bit of back and forth with Jordan, because he was in Newfoundland and I was in Ontario, and we'd kind of share stories back and forth. So he'd be telling me about what's happening here, and I was kind of feeling like I was trailing behind. I was over in Eastern time, and that's where the song was born.
All right, well, let's have a listen. Eastern Time by Kelsey Arsenault.
Well, I love the way he has shown me all the bands I'll never see. Makes me wanna buy a property inside your memory. 'Cause you make it sound so pretty. You pull the lines up off the page. And I'm not the only one's been living in your yesterdays. Your yesterdays. Well, there's a resonance that echoes in the ache at night. You spoke of the rivers running cool and clear before the levee broke. But I never crossed that riverbank or made it to the deck or to Montreal inside a wall you just can't recollect. Oh, enthrallment of a decade of the past and of the times. Keep this in the simple chords. They work for Dylan and Ron Hines. It's not shattering significance, awakening my mind. I'm just trailing behind while I'm stuck in Eastern time. And I took you for a drive, and we talked about the places where our souls, they might survive. But there's that sudden hesitation, makes me shudder, makes me sigh, makes me wanna stop and keep the fall, keep memory alive. Oh, enthrallment of a decade of the past and of the times. Keep this in the simple chords. They work for Dylan and Ron Hines. It's not shattering significance, awakening my mind. Oh, how long can our memories survive? Oh, if you think it while I think it, can they ever really die? Still trailing behind, but we'll dance on every line while I'm stuck in Eastern time. Oh, Eastern time. Oh.
And that was Eastern Time by Kelsey Arsenault, who's my guest today on Going Strong, along with her musical partner and fellow musician, Jordan Young, who you heard playing mandolin on that piece. Jordan, you've always lived here in Newfoundland, so how has staying here helped shape your perspective?
Well, I think the fact that I found such a beautiful and rich and welcoming community in music is a big part of the reason I have stayed, because in my other working life, I've certainly had the opportunity and offers a number of times to move away, but I just felt too connected to the place and the music, and just really felt like I had home for my heart among the musicians that I've worked with all my life here.
Yeah. And Kelsey, as I mentioned, you attended university in Ontario, earning a degree in music therapy and formalizing kind of your belief in the power of music. How is music therapeutic?
So, music therapy is really as simple as it sounds. It's using music and everything that we all know music can bring to the table and just clinically using that for a therapeutic goal.
Yeah.
So it's, I believe firmly, and I've always known music has, the power to heal and influence and shape a person. And it was a really great experience to get the degree too.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, one of my favorite quotes is music has charms to calm the savage breast. And it makes me think of a project you were involved with, Jordan, during the COVID lockdowns when we were all housebound and trying to navigate all that. It was involved with that. And of course, music had stopped, live music. But you collaborated with other musicians to create something called the Co-Video Collective. I think maybe 50 online videos. It caught on like a house afire, so I'm thinking it must have been quite the coping mechanism or therapy.
It was really special. It was something spearheaded by Richie Perez and Brian Doughton. Anyone who follows music in Newfoundland no strangers to those two gents, both Music NL Award winners with the group Ja 3. But Richie and Brian started reaching out when everybody, I guess, was locked down to musical friends, and everyone sort of now with the magic of the internet and home computers can record a bit of video and parts at home. So they started piecing together recordings and little music videos as people filmed on their phone to share on Facebook and YouTube. And it was really something that caught on quickly and spread right across Canada and beyond. And, folks got back to Richie and Brian and myself. I didn't perform on every one of them. I think all told there's over 100 different musicians involved, but I played on about half of them with the guys there. And it was just a way to stay connected and feel that community that I was talking about that I feel so strongly in Newfoundland. And even though we couldn't physically get together, we still felt that kinship and that need to connect and perform and just connect with everybody through music.
Yeah. Yeah. We think that our musical culture, well, really our culture period, is pretty special here in this province. As a young musician, almost brand new, in terms of formalizing it, you're steeped in it. You inherited it. Are we biased when we think that, or is it really true?
I don't know. Having lived away just for a little bit of time, I feel like we are entitled to feel that way because I think we do have something unique and special here. And I think being around it and being surrounded by it and getting to grow up in that was such a fortunate thing for me. So, whether or not I was inevitably brought to this place or I decided the path myself, either way, I feel blessed to have gotten here. Yeah.
David, can I just say,
Yes.
Kelsey might have just released her first full-length debut album, but I'm a couple years older, but I think she's been a professional musician for longer than I have. You were, 4, maybe 5 when you did your first Fairyland?
4, yeah.
Yeah, with the Shamrock Folk Festival, so she's been gigging for longer than I have.
Okay, I stand corrected. You have been
brought up by Mom. Rhonda O'Keefe got me
put you on the stage.
put me on the stage at 4 years old and I sang "Love Is Something." If you give it away, that little kid song.
Well, we're going to hear another song now, and this is from one of your albums, Jordan, Home Salt. And, I'm thinking that maybe it's like salt water running in our veins or the salt sea air that gives our music such a unique flavor, like salt beef or salt fish, a taste of home. And so let's have a listen to Home Salt, and then perhaps we can have a chat about it when we come back.
Lovely. Dare say that's it, mate? Can't wait to hear your ideas.
And that was Home Salt by Jordan Young, an earlier collaboration with Kelsey Arsenault, and I believe that was done again during the pandemic. Tell me about it.
Well, Kelsey had just moved back home to Fairyland from Ontario, and we've been chatting. Of course, we were in isolation, actually, both at our parents' homes, me around the bay and her up the shore. And I remember she made the comment one day that she went out for a walk along the beach with her mom. When she came back, she said, my hair's back, my curls are good. She says, got the good salt hairs back in it. And I said, the home salt.
Oh, fantastic. So that's where the title came
and
from.
just as you say, just sort of that was sort of in my head as I was writing. So that started as a fingerstyle composition for me on guitar, because I was laid off work temporarily, so I had nothing to do but play guitar for 4 or 5 hours a day and do my best Bruce Coburn and Gordon Quinton impersonation, and started working on some stuff for a little album which became the Home Salt collection. And I had reached out to a number of different friends, and I sent this fingerstyle guitar piece to Kelsey, and I said, what if you put a bit of piano on that? And she said, okay. And so she recorded some ideas and sent it back to me. She says, well, I've got a problem. She said, I've only can record this on my phone. She said, I don't have a way to plug my piano into my computer to record it.
The mail. And lo and behold, there was this perfect little chord, and he said, no excuse now. So I said, okay, and I recorded my part. And it's funny now, like, literally looking at you in the same room, but just thinking back to a few years ago and how none of us were in the same room, and we really had to be innovative in the ways that we connect and communicate, and we got to create this really beautiful piece together.
And the marks of true musicians too, and people who love what they do. And it truly is flavored with a lovely salty flavor. The sound of it, I can picture you walking on the beach, and the hair blowing in the wind. Do you have a sense of being the latest? You're fairly young, and do you have the sense of being the latest in a long and rich tradition? Have you sort of caught a musical torch that's been thrown to you?
I've been feeling a little bit like that, like I feel that way in my own life because I've got a sort of connection to my ancestors, and my parents run our ancestral home, so you always feel that kind of connection to everybody that paved the way for you before. But I think now, especially like having put out the physical album, there's this newness to it. And I mean, I've been, like you say, singing and playing for years, but having this in my hands, like that's a new feeling with music that I've never had. And people like, Ron Hines, who was also from Fairyland, were people that paved this musical way for people like me. And it's funny, I was chatting with Mom a few weeks ago, and she said to me, do you know you're the next person since Ron Hines to have put out an album of all original music in Fairyland. And so I guess that makes me the first woman, which is a really amazing thing to have realized.
What a wonderful, following in the footsteps of somebody well known, but certainly carving your own path. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. How about you, Jordan? Do you feel like you sort of caught a torch as well and you're carrying it on?
Oh my God, absolutely. And, I really felt the direct continuity. Like I really started gigging full-time in the downtown scene here in St. John's when I was in university and a little bit earlier, and there were a lot of people like Liz Picard and Sean Panting and Jody Richardson, and Richie Perez and Brian Doughton, who were in groups that I looked up to a lot when I was a teenager, and now all of a sudden I was here and I was starting my own groups and playing with folks, and they were inviting us to open for them, and just became friends and contemporaries so quickly. It was sort of amazing. And now I've been doing it for long enough to have had the experience a few times to, be able to invite people who are a bit newer in the community on and to do things with me. So like I feel that kind of, that unbroken chain of hands helping each other along, reaching back to the beginning,
Absolutely wonderful. Wow. Quickly, what's on tap for each of you now in the days and weeks and months ahead?
Well, I'm really excited about. We've got a new a band formed. Myself and my friend Katie Barber at home called the Dolly Kits, which is named after our
Yes.
grandmothers. And Jordan has come on to play some bass with us. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with us there, and maybe just relax a little bit in the winter. I'm really excited
Catch
to get
your
a cup
breath.
of tea.
But also do some recording. Katie Barber, the other lady in the trio there, has some beautiful songs. So we'd like to start working on something.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah, and you've got something coming up in 24.
I do. Well, before this year finishes out on November the 17th, down at the Ship, actually, Kelsey and I are both playing in Evelyn Jess's band. We're supporting her. She's got a live album release part of there. She just put out Bare Bones Live, which is sort of a live album version of her debut album, which I produced and played on there. And yes, that's going to be a lot of fun. And next year, I'm kind of circling back around to focus on some of my own music again. So I'm planning on doing another Grey J album, a collection of instrumental duets. I'm hoping it's going to be called There Are No Words. And I got a lot of great friends who are fine piano players and accordion players and guitarists and fiddlers. So I'd like to do an album of instrumental compositions and collaborate with some friends there. So that's my plan for 2024.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. What keeps you going strong?
I think just remembering why you're doing it, why you're sitting down with the pen and paper, and what you're trying to do. And I mean, for me in the last few weeks, having people tell me that something in my song has connected with something in them, like, I mean, how could you not love what you're doing when people are telling you things, you know?
Yeah. How about you, Jordan?
This lady across the table keeps me going strong.
That's very sweet. And but I mean, you obviously love it. It's a passion. You know, it's a
100%.
Oh my God! I couldn't imagine what my life would be without music and performing it, and and writing and collaborating with other artists. I mean, it's given me so much.
Yeah. What a way to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a feeling that our musical culture is in very good hands, and on piano keys and mandolin and that big bass fiddle, you will keep it going strong, and then in turn influence other people who come along behind you. And so thanks very much for catching that torch and for popping by to chat all about it. And thanks again for being, good luck. I know we'll be hearing a lot more from you.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
having
Deborah.
us.
And that is Going Strong for this week. I'm your host, Deborah Collins, inviting you to tune in again next Tuesday at 7:30 right here on VOWR.